This chord is only ever used in classical music. In this video I'm going to tell you what this chord is, why you should know about it regardless of the genre you write in, and how to use it in major and minor key chord progressions. Let's start by looking at chords in a key. A key is related to a musical scale. All of the notes for a song in a particular key will come from this scale. For example, a song in the key of C major will use notes from the C major scale. This also includes the chords in a key. These are created by stacking thirds. That is, starting on a note from the scale, skipping a note, and then skipping another note. This leaves you with 3 notes per chord. Therefore, these chords are also known as triads. You can see this process on screen for the C major key. The end result of this process are 7 diatonic chords to use in a key. Each chord has a Roman numeral assigned to it. These numerals show you the function of each chord. Major chords have an uppercase Roman numeral, and minor chords a lowercase Roman numeral. The small circle is for the diminished chord. A really common diatonic progression in major keys is 1-4-5-1. This takes you through tension and resolution in a satisfying, if slightly predictable way. Here's how that sounds in the key of C major with the chords C major, F major and G major. You can play the same Roman numerals from minor keys and get a similar progression. In the key of C natural minor, also known as C Aeolian, you have the chords C minor, F minor and G minor. Here's how that sounds. You may have noticed how there is a difference with the minor 5 chord here. It is weaker and less tense than the major 5 chord you heard earlier. This means that there is less of a satisfying resolution when the 1 chord is played after it. If you like this sound, there's no reason why you shouldn't use it. But what if you want some more tension? A very common thing to do in natural minor keys is to play the 5 chord as a major chord. You can also think of this as being borrowed from the parallel major or harmonic minor keys. Let's play the previous example, but use the major 5 chord this time. This is G major. Listen to the extra tension it provides. Some increased tension with the major 5 chord can be a good thing, but this now moves the focus onto the minor 4 chord. The minor 4 chord, like its minor 5 chord relation, lacks some tension and can feel weak or relaxed when played before the major 5 chord. Let's look at the notes in this chord to understand why this is the case. In the key of C minor, this chord is F minor. F minor is constructed with the notes F, A flat and C. The 5th note of this chord is C. This is also the root note of the 1 tonic chord and the most important note in the key. Having this note in the chord is playing a role in its lack of tension. You can change this note to add some tension and interest. This involves raising it by a semitone or half step. This moves it away from the tonic and therefore adds tension, but it doesn't change the function of the chord as a predominant. In the previous example, this would result in a chord with the notes F, A flat and D flat. This is a D flat major chord played in first inversion, with F as the bass note. This chord can also be thought of as being borrowed from the parallel Phrygian mode. In this example, this key would be C Phrygian. You can see that the 2 chord in C Phrygian is D flat major. There is also another way to arrive at this chord. Back in the C minor key, the 2 chord is D diminished. If you drop the root note of this chord by half a step or semitone, then you have D flat. If you construct a major chord from this note, then you once again have D flat major. As such, you will see this chord referred to as a flat 2 chord. Therefore, in this example, you would be using a flat 2 chord in first inversion. The most common way to refer to this chord is as the Neapolitan chord. You might also hear it called the Neapolitan 6th. Shortly, I'll show you how to use the Neapolitan chord. But first, if you want an easy to use guide with 7 simple songwriting keys, as well as 6 popular chord progressions, then head to majorkeychords.com and download your free copy today. Link is also in the description. If you remember earlier, I was looking for a more tense and interesting replacement for the minor 4 chord to play before the major 5 chord. This ultimately led me to teach you about the Neapolitan chord. So now I'll use this chord in the C minor key progression. Remember here, it is a D flat major over F chord, also known as a D flat major first inversion. This is the most common use of the Neapolitan chord that you will find. You can hear what an interesting and unique tension the Neapolitan chord brought to the progression. Despite this, the use of this sound is reserved mainly to European classical harmony. It doesn't come up much in jazz, rock or pop music, and that feels like a shame. But it also presents an opportunity to you as a songwriter. There's no reason why you can't have a go at using this chord in your own preferred genre of music and see if it creates a sound that you enjoy. It might be just what you are looking for to make you stand out from the crowd. With that in mind, let's look at an example on the guitar. I'm going to move to the major key to show a popular way to use this chord. It's very similar to the minor key. It's exactly the same chord between parallel major and minor keys. So in the key of C major, the Neapolitan chord will still be D flat major like it was in C minor. Again, you're most likely to see it played in first inversion, preceding the 5 chord. Here it also follows the 4 chord, so you have an all major chord progression. This inverted chord can be a little tricky to play on guitar, so consider different voicings or asking someone else to play the bass note. Here's how that sounds. Thinking back to the C minor key, you might also see the Neapolitan chord used to lead into the second inversion of the 1 chord before moving to the major 5 chord. This means that these 2 chords share a bass note. Here's how that sounds, with a G dominant 7/5 chord this time. This further intensifies the pull back to the 1 chord. The Neapolitan chord is a predominant chord, so it is typically followed by the 5 chord or the second inversion 1 as you just heard. But there are a few different ways to approach the Neapolitan chord that can sound good. So far examples have just used a standard root position 1 chord before the Neapolitan chord, but you could mix it up by playing a first inversion 1 chord. Let's move back to the key of C major to explore this. The 1 chord is C major, so a first inversion is C over E. Follow this with the Neapolitan D flat over F, then the second inversion 1 chord, C over G, and finally G dominant 7th. This gives you a pleasing, rising, stepwise movement in the bass, E, F, G. Here's how that sounds. You can do a similar thing by playing the first inversion 2 chord before the Neapolitan. This means that both of these chords share a bass note. This helps to highlight the link between the two and allows the smooth motion of the other notes in the chord by half a step to provide a pleasing change. Here's how that sounds. Remember that you can use these chords wherever it feels right to you. There are no rules, so feel free to experiment beyond the guidance given here. You can also try and play the Neapolitan with different voicings, either in second inversion or as a standard triad. Let's look at a few more approach chord considerations now. Chord 3 does not provide such a pleasing approach to the Neapolitan, so I won't look at it here. 2 more chords in the key that can be useful approaches are 5 and 6. I'll put them in a longer progression now, so you can get a feel for how they sound. I have to admit at this point that you might have just wasted your time. The thing is, everything I just told you is completely useless if you don't know how to create chord progressions. Watch the video on screen next to learn a really simple chord progression system.